Hey guys, welcome to Bastion Time. I am your host Bastion. This is Nintendo News. Let's get to that news. Now first of all, when I was at GameStop pre-ordering my Switch, I saw all of this advertisement everywhere talking about how they will take up to $75 worth of trade-in for, it's kind of a little misleading. They have the number $75 in big bold letters, but then when you read the fine print, it's like, that's specific for the Wii U, and then there's a lesser amount, and that's only if you're like, whatever the heck their special membership is called, and then it's lower if you're not, and then it's lower still if you're trying to trade in a Wii, although who the heck still has a Wii these days? I don't know, or a 3DS or whatever. So anyways, if you want to trade in your Wii U, and you're a member, or whatever the heck it's called, at GameStop, you can get up to $75 of trade-in value towards the Switch. However, I'm not going to do that, because even though I probably don't have much of a use for my Wii U coming up soon, it's the Zelda Edition. I can't get rid of that. I still have my Zelda Edition DS, which is frankly useless to me. I have not turned it on in like a couple years or whatever, but I can't get rid of it. Maybe I'm a hoarder of Zelda-themed consoles, I don't know. But anyways, now you know, if you're a member or whatever it's called at GameStop and you have a Wii U and you want to trade it in for a Switch, you can get up to $75, which isn't bad. Speaking of the Switch, Nintendo put a lot of thought into the design of the logo. You look at it and it doesn't look like much, but if you look at it on a grid, you'll notice it's actually not perfectly symmetrical, for the very good reason that if it was, it would look weird. And I can't really describe it very well, except if you're an artist and you know anything about positive and negative space, that's basically the issue at hand here. The space, since it's only using red and white, and they're also using white for the space between the two Joy-Con representations, it basically would look like one Joy-Con is bigger than the other if it was perfectly symmetrical, so it isn't. But anyways, it's fascinating stuff if you're into graphic design. I'm, by the way, if you didn't know this about me, super into graphic design and fonts and things. I'm a font nerd. Anyways, if you want to check that out, there's a link down there for you. Our next story is not so happy. It's about the fact that the voice of Luigi for the Super Mario Bros. Cartoon and Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World, Tony ROSATO, I think is his name, he unfortunately has passed away. Now here I thought this whole time that the guy in the live-action Super Mario Bros. Super show who played Luigi was the same as the voice, so maybe not, or maybe that is the same guy. I should have looked that up before I started recording this little news segment, but I didn't. But anyways, sad news all around. Our final story unveils an interesting, I guess we can call it a fact and not a rumor, since it's coming from somebody at Square-Enix, but about ye olden days with regard to Nintendo and Square-Enix. Now, if you don't know this whole story, well, I didn't know this part of the story, that's why it's so surprising, but if you're not aware, Square was releasing Final Fantasy games exclusively on Nintendo products all the way through Final Fantasy VI, which over here in the US we called Final Fantasy III for ridiculous reasons we can go into at a different time, but I'm sure you already know those reasons. Anyways, the point is, after Final Fantasy VI, they were working on Final Fantasy VII for the Nintendo 64, which was originally going to be a CD-based console. Unfortunately, however, Nintendo decided to scrap that idea and stick with a cartridge-based system, and Final Fantasy VII was not going to be able to fit onto that cartridge very successfully, so they said, sorry Nintendo, we're gonna go ahead and release Final Fantasy VII on this brand new PlayStation thing, which now exists because of another deal that fell through with Nintendo with regard to that whole CD thing. But that's, if you don't know that story, that's another story for another time. But the point is, Nintendo apparently said, if you leave, if you don't put Final Fantasy VII and subsequent Final Fantasy games out on our systems, you better never come back. And so they didn't, up until, pretty recently. They still haven't released any major Final Fantasy titles on Nintendo systems since then. maybe that will change in the future, hopefully. Apparently that bad blood is now no longer there, but this was a brand new revelation that came up in an interview from a developer who was working at Square back in that day, and dropped this truth bomb on us out of nowhere. Anyways, that's it for this episode of Nintendo News. See you guys in a couple days for more news. Bye, guys.